Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will talk about the controversial comments made by UN General Assembly President Volkan Bozkır and India's sharp reaction. President of the United Nations General Assembly Volkan Bozkır, who is a Turkish politician and diplomat, has made unpleasant and undiplomatic comments regarding Jammu and Kashmir. He has said that Pakistan is duty bound to raise J&K issue at the UN more strongly. He made the comments in Pakistan while he was on a visit there. India has slammed him for making such unacceptable comments. In the agenda today, we will try to analyze whether he exceeded his brief deliberately. We have with us two former diplomats, Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar and Ambassador Achal Kumar Malhotra. But before we start our conversation, have a look at this small report.
Turkish politician diplomat Volkan Bozkır, who is currently the president of the UN General Assembly, apparently forgot that he was holding such a responsible and respectable position that he made some controversial comments regarding Jammu and Kashmir. On a visit to Pakistan and standing next to Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, he made the comments which do not behove the prestigious global position he holds right now. At a joint press conference with Qureshi in Islamabad on Thursday, Bozkır said, "I think it is the duty, especially Pakistan's, to bring Kashmir issue to the United Nations platform more strongly." He also said that all parties should refrain from changing the status of Jammu and Kashmir and that a solution was to be found through peaceful means in accordance with the UN Charter and Security Council resolutions as agreed in the Simla agreement between Pakistan and India. Unhappy with these comments, India reacted sharply. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bakshi said India expresses strong opposition to the unwarranted references made with respect to the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir by Bozkır. Bakshi said, when an incumbent president of the UN General Assembly makes misleading and prejudiced remarks, he does great disservice to the office he occupies. Bozkır is serving as the president of the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly since last year. His term is for 1 year, which will end in September. He has earlier served as Turkey's Minister of European Union Affairs. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, Ambassador Sajanhar and Ambassador Malhotra. Welcome to the program, both of you, sir. So I'll begin with Ambassador Sajanhar about UN General Assembly President's controversial comment, as you must have read, and India's sharp reaction to it. So how do you first, your initial comments, how do you see these comments?
First, Ajay, I would say that this comment by the UNGA President is totally unwarranted and totally uncalled for. And the question that you posed right at the beginning, that is he exceeding his brief? Yes, definitely, because when, of course, he is a Turkish politician,
right,
and he's been a minister in Turkey. So he has some political persuasions, he has some political ideology, he has some political belief, and that would be determined by what Turkey thinks about the India-Pakistan issues and Kashmir issue and all that sort of things. So when he is in a bilateral role, he is most welcome to say whatever he wants to, as far as any global issues are concerned or relations between two countries or problems are concerned. But when he is, wearing the mantle of the President of the UN General Assembly, then he is required to be impartial, unbiased, objective, and this he has definitely not been, meaning he is going on the soil of a hostile country to India, and there he is making these comments and statements because maybe he wants to advance his own career, because this is a 1 year tenure that he gets. and after that he is going to go back to his country, and maybe he wants to make sure that he gets some good position there, and that is why he's making these comments, to go back to tell his lords and masters back home in Ankara and other places that he is carrying forward, even in this position, he is carrying forward the policies of the Turkish government. So, to put it briefly, totally unwarranted, uncalled for. I think what the Indian government, the very strong reaction by the Indian government is very, that is what was
Needed.
expected, and I'm glad that
Right.
Ajay.
So yeah, Ambassador Malhotra, I come to you. So as you heard Ambassador Sajjan talking about his domestic ideology, which is playing out in his capacity as the UNGA president. Obviously, he didn't keep that brief. But for the sake of our viewers, can you please explain how UNGA president is? I mean, one becomes UNGA president, because people want to know how he has become the president.
Well, Ajay, every year there is a General Assembly meeting held sometime in the month of June. And for every session, which lasts for about 1 year, there is somebody is elected as the President of the United Nations General Assembly, which comprises almost 200 countries from all over the world. So this gentleman was, normally this is a process by consensus, in advance, somebody, particular country, projects its candidate, and through informal consultations, and there is a generally as a rule, this is by consensus, it's decided that so-and-so will be the next President of the UN General Assembly. He remains so for 1 year. This gentleman was elected in June 2020, and for the 75th session of the UNGA, which will be over whenever the next session is coming, usually in June, September, around that time, we will have a new president. So this is, but he is not expected to suo moto, define certain positions. And he's supposed to remain within the prescribed norms of the United Nations, and he's supposed to be presiding over a meeting and remain within the framework of the UN Charter, UN, whatever is the agenda of the meeting. Now, in this particular case, he was visiting Pakistan wearing the hat of the UN, as President of the UN General Assembly, but also the way he was speaking there, as if he was pursuing, an agenda for which he had absolutely no authority. So I will release that and say he violated the dignity of the high office to which he had been elected. And he should not have done that. And he has absolutely no business to advise one of the two parties to the conflict to behave in a particular manner and to raise the issue of the United Nations. Why should he is advising? No, he should have known fully well that there is a bilateral agreement between the two countries, namely Sirna Agreement, and the two parties to the conflict have already agreed that this issue will be resolved bilaterally. And even some of the predecessors, some of the former, the UN Secretary Generals and Donald record, formally, informally, saying that whatever resolutions had been adopted at the UN on this issue are already revision. So absolutely out of context, absolutely there was no need, and I'm very glad that the government of India has thought it fit to sort of, rebuff it in a very strongly worded statement.
So, Ambassador Malhotra, do you think it was, deliberate, or it was slip of tongue, or what do you think? What is your assessment?
Definitely not a slip of tongue. It was premeditated. Let's look at this as he was talking to the representative of Turkey. And we all know that Turkey is planning to become the Khalifa of the world Islamic community.
Right.
And Turkey is one country which has provoking and Pakistan raising all these issues at all possible fora without any success, of course, so far. The Imran Khan has tried it numerous times. He spoke at the General Assembly. All possible fora he is, but it is already an Indian narrative based on certain facts and conditions which are not acceptable to all those who matter in the global community.
Right.
They understand this is Kashmir is an integral part of India, and whatever has to be resolved in the countries has to be resolved bilaterally. So I'm not going to that, but Pakistan has been floating its own narrative, and Turkey is one of the countries which, together with Pakistan and Malaysia and few others, is aspiring to assume the leadership of Muslim world. And I would like to see this as one in the series of those attempts. The only bad thing about the whole episode is that he should not have been doing this as president of the UN General Assembly, elected by almost 200 member states, and he is not expected to speak in a manner he spoke. He has to confine himself to the agenda which is placed before the United Nations General Assembly, and so moto he cannot go around giving all these kind of advice to in a official business.
Right. So, Ambassador Sajanar, I come to you. As you all both mentioned that India issued a very strong, in fact, it was a very strong statement, rebuff to him. So, do you, as diplomatically, do you think, I mean, India can do more, or that's it? Just issuing a statement is enough, or maybe we can lodge a protest with Security Council or whatever. What do you say?
No, I think this is quite adequate. I don't think we should be giving it greater importance than it deserves. I think this is all the importance that it deserves. Meaning he is, in fact, he was Minister of European Affairs, and you can see what is the status of, he was in terms of.
Yeah, that was the past, but as UNGA president, that has a different, I mean, connotation itself.
Yeah. No, the point I'm making is that his position, even in the Turkish dispensation, was not a very senior one. It was not a very high. He was in charge of the accession of Turkey to the European Union. And you see where that position is. It has not moved any further. So he doesn't really count for much. We have more important things to do. We have to deal with the pandemic at home. And as far as foreign policy issues are concerned, Ministry of External Affairs is concerned, we have relations with the US, we have relations with Europe, and many other positive things to take care of. I think he doesn't deserve any more attention than this. We have given him a rap on the knuckles. We have given him a very strong rebuttal, and that's it. We should let it stay at that and not give it more importance than either the individual or the statement that it deserves.
Okay, another issue that now it is talked about the UN Security Council resolutions. I mean, there has been this false narrative, or I mean, biased narrative going around the world for long. Like India, it appears like India is on the defensive. UN Security Council resolution has to be implemented by India, and India is failing. Rather, Pakistan, which has failed to actually implement the first steps. So, shouldn't India take it more seriously and more vociferously raise these issues, change the narrative? Correct the narrative, I'll say. Ambassador Sajanar.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a point well taken. I think we need to be more aggressive because, several of the conditionalities that were put in the UN Security Council resolution in 1948 that Pakistan will have to move out all its troops from, the Pakistan occupied Kashmir area, and there'll be no troops. And while India can still have some troops in that territory to maintain law and order, and there is going to be a referendum, etc. So it is Pakistan that has not met its part of the agreement. It's part of that resolution.
That's the first step. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first step. And as far as the issue of referendum, Ajay, is concerned, we've had how many, more than 11, 12 elections there, and we've seen that more recently the participation in the elections has been very heavy. So. Right. That is as good as a referendum. This other point, what we have been saying also is that agreements that come in later, then legally they are supposed to override the previous decisions that have been taken. So these were resolutions in 48 and after that. while whether it is the Simla Agreement, that was 1972, so that supersedes whatever
Right.
has been agreed to and whatever has been decided. So we have always been focusing on that particular aspect. And I think, frankly, between you and me, meaning for an argument, you might say that India is not taking it up very strongly, while Pakistan says UN Security Council resolutions. I think the world has lost patience as far as the issue of Kashmir is concerned. They don't think that this is, in that sense, a burning issue or something, that you need attention. I think the world community is
Fatigued.
tired of that issue, and they don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right.
That is why I think when Pakistan raises this issue in different international fora, it is doing itself a disservice rather than sort of being able to target or attack India in any way.
Right. So, Ambassador Malhotra, I come to you about, as I was just talking about this UNSC resolution thing and the narrative, I mean, the Pakistan which has been created. So, is it the time that India should now go on the offensive and talk about POK rather than be defensive on J&K? What do you say?
Yeah, Ajay, I think of late we have taken a position that as far as Kashmir is concerned, there is no dispute. It is an issue, and the only issue that is from our point of view, which remains to be resolved, is the issue pertaining to the territories which are occupied by the Pakistan. And the POK, we also include, not only Kashmir, but the larger area which belonged to the state of Jammu and Kashmir at the time of its accession. So our narrative is very, very clear that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India, and Kashmir, there are parts of Kashmir, unfortunately, which are occupied by Pakistan, and this is the main issue which remains to be resolved, and this has got to be resolved within the framework of a bilateral negotiated peaceful solution. And there is no scope for internationalizing this issue. We have been very politely declining any request which has come from anywhere, including in the recent past from former President of the United States, Donald Trump, or anybody else for that matter, that this is an issue we will resolve together with Pakistan. And these are the broad outlines of our narrative, which we have been, already promoting and propagating through various channels. And side by side, we are also, of course, added the dimension of cross-border terrorism, which is Pakistan misusing the occupied territories, which is POK, and for launching all the anti-India activities, and also Pakistan's intervention into Kashmir, the internal affairs. So these are the broad elements of our narrative. And as you would have seen from the last year's attempts made by Imran Khan at various fora, the Pakistan is no more in a position to sell its narrative to anybody. But yet, I must say that, and we must agree and concede that Pakistan does have certain lobbies in the Western world, which have their own definitions of human rights and their own opinions about their violations. And in certain segments of those societies in the Western world, including the United States of America, UK, and Europe, where Pakistan is able to promote some of them to keep this issue on the front,
On the boil.
burner.
Yeah.
On the boil. Either somebody will raise it in the U.S. Congress or the U.S. Senate, or of course, organization of Islamic countries, OIC. For them, it is a ritual. Every year, like Hajj, they have to perform come out with some sort of resolution about it. So they are floating their own narrative, but there are no serious buyers of Pakistan's narrative in the world. This is an irritation which would continue to be there, and I think that appropriate times we suitably reverse it. And more than that, I don't think it deserves any effort or energy or from our side.
Right. So, Ambassador Sarjanhar, I come to you about, as I mentioned about why we are not taking up the issues. There are a lot of issues in POK, like Chinese getting there, and recently I came to know that there is a British parliamentarian who is compiling some report about human rights violations, so-called, in Jammu and Kashmir. So ignoring what POK is, I mean, should we not go on the offensive and aggressively talk about POK, human rights violations? I mean, people there are suffering, but we have been silent, and constitutionally it is our territory.
No, it is our territory. You're very right, Ajay, and I think we need to do more as far as not only the Pakistan occupied Kashmir there and Gilgit-Baltistan, northern areas, etc., but also in Balochistan, also in Sindh, all the human rights violations that are taking place. I think we need to and can do sort of much more on that. But on the issue of Kashmir, raising POK in international fora, I would be a little circumspect about it because we ourselves are not very keen to make internationalize the Kashmir issue. What we have been doing, and I think it's a smart thing that we've been doing, we've been focusing on terrorism that is emanating from Pakistan. Whether it is cross-border terrorism, whether it is funding, providing safe havens, whether it is shelling, it is
Training camps.
Training camps,
Yeah.
providing them with financing, and with these ceasefire violations, trying to push in these terrorists into India. You would recall that at every meeting that the Prime Minister goes or the External Affairs Minister goes, this is an issue that is raised of terror, not of Kashmir per se, because it is not in our interest to internationalize Kashmir issue. Ajay, we have to
No, I'm not talking.
recognize.
Yeah. Please carry
Yeah,
on.
the international community is not going to help me to get Pakistan occupied Kashmir back from Pakistan. No, international community does not have that sort of a clout or effect or impact or influence. If we have to get POK, we have to get it ourselves.
No, I'm not
And
saying
that is where
I'm not saying that we should get POK. I'm saying highlighting the atrocities being committed by
yes,
Pakistan and
yes,
that.
yes.
And
That I
there,
agree with you.
as if you link it to, I mean, training camps and all, I know people who are very unhappy and angry at the Pakistani establishment for these camps, which are causing a lot of problems in that area, Gilgit-Baltistan, and so we have to be their voice. That's what I'm saying at the human
Yeah,
rights.
I agree with you. As far as the Balochs are concerned, you would remember that, one of these Baloch activists who got killed in Canada recently, I forget her name, and she had sort
Yeah,
of, sent
she
her
had taken
appeal to Prime
asylum there.
Minister Modi, and she had said that, please become our voice and please take it up. Of course, Prime Minister Modi had raised this issue once from the ramparts of the Red Fort during the Independence Day address, during the Republic Day address.
2016,
But
I think.
after that, yeah, we have not really been able to take it forward.
Yeah.
That is an issue, that whatever is happening, but we find that the liberal left elements, whether it is in the media or it is in think tanks or it is in academia or it is in certain parliaments, whether British Parliament or the Canadian Parliament, they are there, and I think the Pakistan community in those countries also, not so much in the United
Their
States
lobbyists, yeah,
or
very
in
strong.
Brussels, where I have been to both these countries. I see that we have been able to, completely stymie the machinations and the shenanigans of this Pakistan diaspora there. But I can see that in Canada and in the United Kingdom,
UK.
Birmingham and London and all, we've not been able to do that. But that is where we really need to cultivate the people there and cultivate congressmen, cultivate parliamentarians, and make sure that these sort of things, the lens is focused on POK and
Right.
Balochistan.
Right,
rather than
rather,
on
yeah.
India.
So, Ambassador Malhotra, your last comments on the same issue before we conclude about focusing on POK human rights problems.
So, Sunny, I would say that we are not completely silent on whatever is happening in Pakistan occupied Kashmir or in other parts of Pakistan, even Balochistan, Gilgit, and other parts, wherever whenever there are atrocities against.
But I don't think I have heard enough noises about that. India making.
No, I was coming to that. The only problem is that whenever there is a finger pointing towards India, and then we react And
So that's what I'm saying. We are reactive. We should be
What we need
proactive.
to do probably, what you are suggesting is,
Proactive.
and with which I don't have any disagreement per se, that we proactively start raising these issues at human rights councils, General Assembly, or elsewhere, or and probably we are not.
Whatever
really-
forum we get, whatever
Yeah.
international forum we can get. Yeah.
We made a beginning with Balochistan. We did make a beginning when our Prime Minister from the Emperor of Export gave an indication when he said, I have, been contacted from the Balochistan in signaling something towards in the direction which you are mentioning. After that, there were reports also of Baloch activists wanting to take asylum, open office in
Right.
our and there were other occasions on which we gave indications of our trying to open up. But after that, I think we have probably decided either to keep it low profile or use some other channels for
Yeah.
pursuing the cause of Baloch and other religious minorities who are suffering at the hand of Pakistan.
So,
and
yeah.
the military.
I think we need to do more, as you both agree that we need to do more on that front and highlight. I mean, take the battle to the enemy camp rather than fighting it on our own territory. But the time of this program today is over. Thank you both of you for participating. This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. Dear viewers, there is an assign. दोबारा करते हैं इसको. This is all in the agenda today. Viewers, I have an important piece of information to share with you. From June 2nd, that is next Wednesday, your favorite program, the agenda, will be telecast at 6 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. Meanwhile, I'll be back with another important and interesting topic on Monday. Till then, take care and stay safe. Goodbye.